We've all had trouble making a decision at some point in our lives. There's only just so much juice flowing in our brains, and sometimes we just don't have it in us to decide or to make a good decision. There was a study done of a parole board and all their decisions made over a long period of time. And it was found that a third of the prisoners overall were given parole, but then they analyzed the time of day when these decisions were being made. And if the prisoners appeared before the parole board first thing in the morning, they were actually 70% likely to be given parole. But if their appointment happened to be at the end of the day, only 10% chance of getting parole. This is the last video in this series about focusing and getting stuff done, and we're going to be talking about decision fatigue, what it is, and some ideas for being strategic about your decision making so that you have the brain power left to make more good decisions. Decision fatigue is a fairly new concept in psychology, and all that it is that we only have so much mental energy for self-control and decision making. And if we're mentally worn out from making decisions, we're more likely to do two things: act impulsively, and the second one is the easiest: don't do anything. Either of these tendencies can cause problems down the road, but it eases the mental strain in the moment. There was a study done on decision fatigue in which the subjects walked into a room with a table full of random products, and they were told that they could decide on one thing to take home with them. Half the people were made to decide by being sort of interrogated with a series of questions. Do you want a pen or a candle? How about which sock do you like out of these three socks? How about black or blue? And the other half were just given the same amount of time to look at the items, make the decision, and they were told that they had to present their opinions and talk about how often they use the individual objects. After this decision-making process was over, the subjects were told to hold a hand in a bucket of freezing water as long as possible. And there's a big difference between the two groups. So the people who were asked question after question after question and forced to make rapid fire decisions, they only lasted 28 seconds on average. But the people who could peruse on their own exhibited more self-control and were able to keep their hands in the freezing cold water longer, for an average of 67 seconds. With decision fatigue, once you're mentally depleted, you're less likely to make trade-offs, which is a complex type of decision making. So compromising can be a negotiation between people, but it can also factor into decisions like what product to buy. So in order to save yourself mental energy of weighing a huge list of pros and cons, you might make the decision solely on one factor, like focusing on price or quality. As you make a series of decisions and you get more and more worn out, it's been shown that you're more likely to just go for the default choice or a recommendation instead of deciding what's right for you. Decision fatigue is also the reason why stores are more likely to have a whole bunch of impulse buy items near where you're lining up to pay. And grocery stores typically will have the produce section with the fruits and veggies right where you walk in when you're making good decisions. And then the more junk food type foods are buried within the store, where you're more likely to be worn out from deciding things and act impulsively. So, how do you lessen decision fatigue? Studies on decision fatigue have shown that eating or drinking helps people to make better decisions. in a study, if all the subjects were put through a stressful decision-making process, and half the group was given a snack before being given a task to measure impulsivity, and the other half did not have any food or drink, the group who ate was better able to exhibit self-control. If we go back to that parole board study, throughout the day it was found that parole was more likely to be given if the person appeared soon after the board members ate, and the likelihood declined again the longer they sat and made more decisions in a row. For real life, you could use this knowledge and make sure that you eat smaller meals spaced out throughout the day, or you can make sure that you eat snacks between meals. In my other video in this series called Time Management Inspo, I talk about Eat That Frog, which is a suggestion that first thing in the morning, you complete an important task that you might be likely to procrastinate on. Then it's done, and you won't have that just sitting on your shoulders and weighing down your day. You could also factor decision fatigue into this idea. If you have to do something that requires making a complex decision, it's probably a good idea to tackle it when you're fresh in the morning or after you've eaten a meal. That way, you'll likely make wiser decisions. You might be more likely to decide to do things if you physically arrange things in your environment to make doing it an easier decision to make. For instance, I take a lot of supplements just because they make me feel good. So I am motivated to take them because of how I feel, but I do find that I am much more likely to take my supplements regularly if I have them all doled out a week at a time. Deciding to take my supplements is just less of an ordeal, and I am more likely to take them throughout the day as well because I don't have to decide to get my supplements ready for later because it's already done. I just grab it and take it with me. If you have a project or a hobby that you like to do, instead of having all your equipment put away in their various, spots throughout the house, put everything you need together. If you can have everything in the area where you're likely to do that project or hobby, even better. Even just having everything together in a box so you can just go grab it and start will mean that you're more likely to do it because you don't have to go through all the decisions of getting ready. In terms of using essential oils, some people like to store their essential oils all together in one place of the house, like a cute little storage box, but I don't think that's a good idea. Keep them in the area where you're more likely to use them. Once you've decided to use an oil, then you won't have to make the additional decision to go and retrieve the essential oil when you might just say, oh, forget it, and then not use it. So I have essential oils stashed in the kitchen, living room, bedroom, bathroom, and my office studio here. I, in some cases, have more than one bottle of the same essential oil open at one time, just because I'm likely to use it for different aspects of my life. How do you lessen that load of constantly planning and preparing food? There's restaurants, of course, or you could take advantage of a meal kit service where all your ingredients are delivered in a box with instructions. You don't need to decide what to make, you just do it. This won't work for everyone, but you can delegate and divide the meal planning and the prep between different members of your household. Consider subscribing to a farm share box of fruits and veggies. When I did this, I picked it up every couple of weeks, and most of the decision of what produce to buy was already made for me. So then All I had to do is decide what food to make based upon what was in the box, and it actually made meal planning a lot easier. You can also make more than you need when you're making a big batch and freeze the extra portions for later. So this could be a large portion for a dinner one night in the future, or what I do when I make a recipe, I will do like 1, 2, or 3 small containers that I can grab from the freezer in the mornings when I'm making my lunch for work. Another way that you can focus your decision making for food is to meal plan before grocery shopping and have 1 or 2 food prep sessions a week where you prepare as much as possible for the next bunch of meals. That way you just have less work to do the rest of the time. If you don't want to go through meal planning yourself, just do a search online for meal plan. There's plenty of free weekly meal plans, complete with grocery lists online that you can download. There's people like Steve Jobs or Karl Lagerfeld who always wear the same thing. And when asked about it, they've said that it's so that they have one less thing to decide on in life. My brother-in-law always wears a black t-shirt. It really doesn't matter what's going on. And I had a professor in university who only wore black. Now, I did study fine art, so it could have been a purely aesthetic decision of hers, but everything in her closet would automatically match, so getting dressed would have been easier for her. At a work Christmas party, I once talked to someone about the system he had put together for assembling his work outfits so he didn't have to decide. So he just grabbed them out of his closet in order. So he would take the first shirt, the first jacket, the first pants, and the first tie and put them on. When he bought stuff, he said he tried to pick out like colors and patterns that mostly matched what he already had, and only sometimes his wife and daughter needed to intervene and tell him to change what he was wearing. You don't necessarily need to start wearing a uniform or pare down to a capsule wardrobe, but there's probably something you can do to make deciding what to wear less of an ordeal. So this could be the classic pick your outfit the night before and lay it out, or maybe you go whole hog and plan your outfits for the week so that you don't have to decide in the morning. If you want to exercise 3 days a week, when you do your laundry, don't put your workout clothes away in their place, like the socks with the socks and the shirts with the shirts. Make a stack of full workout outfits that you can just grab and put on, or have them in individual bags that you can grab if you're going out to the gym. And you might find that the clothes you're wearing has changed in the last year just because of the pandemic. So you're not going out socially as much, or you're working from home. So maybe you could simplify your decision-making process by putting all the clothes that you wear these days together in one section, and the clothes that you don't have an occasion to wear right now in another section. And that way you just have less clutter to go through when you're deciding what to throw on in the morning.